everyone, welcome to APTI Plus Academy for Civil Services. In this session, we are going to cover the places that were in news in the last few months and that are very important for UPSC Prelims 2026. So let's get started. So the first place is Shasgam Valley. Okay. So Shasgam Valley was in news because India rejected China's infrastructure under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor related projects, activities that are going on in the Shasgam Valley, calling it illegal and invalid, okay, and it reiterated that the valley is an inseparable part of India. So you must be knowing about CEPEC, that is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is basically a 3,000 kilometers long route of infrastructure projects that connects China's northwest Xinjiang region. Okay. And then the Gwadar port in the western province of Balochistan in Pakistan. Okay, so since this passes through India, so India is definitely protesting against it. Okay, and it is a bilateral project between Pakistan and China, and it intends to promote the connectivity, of course, across Pakistan. And this will pave the way for China to access the Middle East and then Africa from Gwadar port, and this will also enable China to access the Indian Ocean region. Okay, it is basically a part of the broader BRI, that is the Belt and Road Initiative. Okay, this Belt and Road Initiative was launched in 2013 and it aims to link Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Gulf region, Africa and Europe. Now, the CPEC is like very dangerous for India because it just like affects India's sovereignty. India has continuously opposed the project because it passes through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir POK region of Gilgit-Baltistan. Okay, and the corridor is also perceived to be an alternative economic road link for the Kashmir Valley, which lies on the Indian side of the border. So that is why India is always against this particular project. Now, and in this context only Shasgam Valley was in news. So from map point of view, the location of Shasgam Valley is extremely important over here. Where is it located? It is located north of the Siachen Glacier between the Karakoram range and the Kunlun range. Very important to note that this Shasgam Valley, you can see this is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir region, Baltistan. Okay, so it lies between this Shasgam Valley, it lies between the Karakoram range and the Kunlun range. Okay, and it lies in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir of the Hunza Gilgit region. Hunza Gilgit region. But now it is administered by China as part of the Xinjiang. Very important. So what is the historical claim and then the dispute? Actually, Jammu and Kashmir, after it was acceded to India in 1947, India claimed sovereignty over Shasgam. Now, during the 1947 to 48 war, we all know what happened between India and Pakistan. Pakistan took control of it. Now, historically, the region formed part of Baltistan, Ladakh, evident from Balti and the Ladakhi place names, of course, from here. And the British era maps also and the surveys also, they show it as a part of Kashmir. Though the China boundary over here, it remained undefined. Now, what happened in 1963? The Sino-Pakistan frontier agreement after the India lost to China in the Sino-India war, and this particular agreement was signed in 1963. Now, during in this agreement, what happened is Pakistan ceded 5180 square kilometers of the Shasgam Valley to China. Now, Article 6 states that the boundary is temporary to be renegotiated after a final Kashmir settlement and all. But India rejected the agreement as illegal, of course, and it asserted that Pakistan lacked the authority to transfer an Indian territory to another country called China. Okay, so if we talk about the current status, it is administered by China as part of Xinjiang and it is claimed by India as part of the Union Territory of Ladakh. Okay, and Pakistan defends the 1963 agreement, of course, but no longer it does not controls it. Okay, and China is developing now roads and infrastructure in this particular region. But now this particular Shasgam Valley, it is extremely important from strategic point of view because it is close to the Siachen Glacier, we all know. It is near the Aksai Chin and the CPEC routes, and it also enhances China-Pakistan strategic and military connectivity. So that is why it is extremely important strategically for India. This particular map shows everything that we were talking about. Okay, this is the Shasgam Valley. Okay, this is the area which is held by China and it is claimed by India, of course. The Pakistan occupied Kashmir region. Okay, and this is part of Ladakh. Moving to the next topic, Senkaku Islands. Senkaku Islands was in news recently because China conducted a patrol near the Japan-administered Senkaku Islands. Okay, and this happened because Japan had signaled that if China attacks Taiwan, then it will respond. Okay, now if we talk about the Senkaku Islands, it is a group of 5 uninhabited islands and rocky outcrops in the East China Sea. Very important to note. It is located in the East China Sea. Now, Senkaku Islands is referred to as Senkaku, of course, by Japan, but China calls it as Diao Islands. Okay, and Taiwan calls it as Diao Tai Islands. Why? Because China, Taiwan, and Japan, all of them, they claim this particular Senkaku Islands, but right now it is being administered by Japan. If you see this map, Senkaku Islands, it comprises of 5 islands as mentioned earlier. Kuba Island, Taisho, okay, Uatsuri, Okinokitoa, Okinomiya, Kita Kojima, and this one, and then Tobise. So these are the 5 islands that make up the Senkaku Islands. Now, among all these islands, Uatsuri is the largest island. So, very important from UPSC Prelims perspective. Okay, so the largest island is Uatsuri. Now, a 1969 report, UN report, it suggested possible hydrocarbon reserves beneath the islands, and this has increased the economic and strategic value, of course, of the islands, and it has also intensified the sovereignty claims. Now, if we talk about the historical background of the dispute, in 1895, Japan took control of Taiwan and the islands after winning the first Sino-Japanese War. Okay. Now, China argues that the islands were seized illegally. After World War II, that took place in 1945, the US assumed administrative control under the 1951 Treaty of Peace. Okay. And in 1971, the Okinawa Reversion Agreement was signed, and this returned Okinawa and the Senkaku Islands back to Japan. Very important to note. China and Taiwan, of course, protested, while Japan maintains that their claims surfaced only after the discovery of hydrocarbon resources under the islands. Now, the current status is very complicated because there is a long-standing China-Japan territorial dispute over here. There frequent maritime patrols take place, and there are diplomatic tensions as well. And these has, of course, broader implications for the East Asian security. Now, an important extension of this particular topic is Scarborough Shoal. Okay. Now, it is a topic pertaining to South China Sea. So, China is planning to set up a nature reserve in Scarborough Shoal in this region. Okay. And of course, this is in the South China Sea, and Philippines has opposed it, calling it a unilateral move because it's a long-standing dispute. We all know about the disputed islands of the South China Sea. Now, if you talk about the Scarborough Shoal particularly, it is a triangular atoll. Okay, triangular atoll. What is an atoll? An atoll is a ring-shaped coral reef. Okay, it is a ring-shaped coral reef, often with small islands, okay, that encircles a central lagoon. And this forms a distinctive donut-like shape in tropical oceans, and there are like a lot of examples in Maldives and Pacific Ocean. And these geological formations, they develop from reefs growing around volcanic islands. Okay, they eventually sink, or like they subside or erode, leaving the coral ring behind. So the volcanic island, the volcanic formations, okay, so they like subside and the only the reef is left. This is referred to as atoll. Now a Scarborough Shoal is located 200 kilometers from the Philippine coast, and it lies within the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. Okay, and this is under UNCLOS 1982. What is UNCLOS? UNCLOS stands for United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea, and it is a crucial international treaty establishing a legal framework for all ocean and sea activities. Basically, it defines the maritime zones, it regulates the resource management, and it ensures freedom of navigation. Also, it provides mechanisms for dispute resolution. Okay, for example, it creates rules for the territorial waters, like which all countries will have how much water in their territorial region. Okay, continental shelves, high seas, etc. So all these rules pertaining to the like territory of the sea is defined under the UNCLOS, or the United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea. Now, if we talk about the South China Sea, it is a marginal sea of the Western Pacific Ocean. It is basically bounded in the north by the South China, okay, and in the west it is surrounded by the Indo-Chinese Peninsula, in the east by the islands of Taiwan, and in the northwest Philippines, as we can see in this map, okay, and mainly the Luzon, Mindoro and Palawan areas. And in the south it's Borneo, then Indonesia, okay, Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam, as we can see over here. Now it communicates with the East China Sea and via the Taiwan Strait. That is a different thing altogether. If we talk about the South China Sea, it has around 250 small islands, atolls, etc. Mainly the Spratly Islands, the Paracel Islands, the Pratas, the Macclesfield Bank and the Scarborough Shoal that we were talking about. So these are the various islands that are there in the South China Sea. Now, if we talk about the Paracels and the Spratlys Island over here, as you can see, okay, Vietnam claims both the islands. It says that it has actively ruled over both the Paracels and the Spratlys since 17th century, etc. Scarborough Shoal, both Philippines and China, they claim it. Okay, so these are the various islands that are like disputed in the region, and it is because of the importance of South China Sea. It has rich oil and gas reserves, okay, estimated 11 billion barrels of oil. Then it is a very important shipping lane. It has like strategic maritime link between the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, and it has huge biological diversity. Around 30% of the world's coral reefs and many valuable fisheries are found over here. So this was all about the South China Sea. Now, as you can see in this map, this is the China's 9-dash line, right? So what is the 9-dash line? So this 9-dash is a U-shaped line on Chinese maps which shows extensive maritime claims, okay. Originally it was basically 11-dash line. And then in 1947 it was simplified to 9 by removing 2 dashes. So these are the dashes as you can see in this map. And now China claims historic rights within this line, which means that within this line, whatever islands are there, China claims that it has sovereignty rights over these islands and water. Okay. And in fact, it submitted a map with the line to the UN in 2009, and this has like sparked further conflict in the region. So this was all about the South China Sea, the historical background and the geography of this particular place. Another place that was in news is Port of Pasni. So Pakistan has reportedly offered the US to develop a port of Pasni in Balochistan. Okay, and this gives, of course, Washington the maritime access near Iran's border. As you can see in this map, this is the location of Port of Pasni. If we talk about the location and the features of the Port of Pasni, it would be a small deep water harbour on the Arabian Sea in Gwadar district of Balochistan, and it includes a fish harbour and a Pakistan Maritime Security Agency base. So Pasni basically lies near the Iran-Pakistan border. This is what can appear in UPSC Prelims. The location of Pasni at the border of Iran and Pakistan, and it is on the east of the Gwadar port and very close to the Chabahar port. Okay, so sometimes like questions appear like arrange this from east to west or left to right, right to left. So you need to have a sound understanding of the exact location of the port of Pasni. Now Pasni is quite strategic in nature because it forms a maritime triangle with what? Chabahar, okay, where India is developing its port, Gwadar, okay, where Pakistan has its port, okay, and China is supporting it. So this is a triangular kind of a region, and this places what? US, China, as well as India. All of the countries have their interests in this particular region, and they have a very close proximity over here. Now, what is the objective of the Port of Pasni? It basically aims to reduce dependence on China's BRI, attract US investment and enable export of critical minerals including the rare earth minerals. Okay, so the region's rich mineral deposits, it's basically quite important in terms of economic dimension to its strategic value, and we all know the parallel Chinese control of the Gwadar under CPEC. This could bring rival powers face to face, and that is why the regional rivalry over this region would increase. So the geopolitical implications of the Pasni Gwadar Chabahar axis is quite risky because it emerges as a new geopolitical hotspot. It links the maritime security, the energy routes and the great power competition. Also, we all know what is happening in Iran, the protests that are going on over here, and the intervention of US and the US sanctions over Iran, and this affects our activities in Iran, and India's Chabahar port is also affected because of this. So the development of the port of Pasni by the US, this could definitely undermine India's Chabahar port, and because it will offer access to Afghanistan and Central Asia by bypassing Pakistan, especially after the withdrawal of the US of the Chabahar sanctions waiver, because like US had put sanctions over the development of Chabahar port in Iran. A few months back, US had withdrawn sanctions from the Chabahar port, the project that India is constructing over Iran. So this was important for India, but now the port of Pasni, this now leads to a new challenge over here, and so this could lead to a different geopolitical situation over this region completely. Now moving to the next place that was in news, that is Bagram airfield. Okay, Bagram airfield. Basically, the US president warned Afghanistan of consequences if Bagram airfield is not returned, and he also hinted at a possible military action. We all know what US is doing in Venezuela and then in Greenland and some other places. So basically this base was vacated, this particular Bagram airfield, it was vacated by US forces ahead of the 2021 withdrawal from the Afghanistan. Now if we talk about the location of Bagram, it is located about 60 kilometers north of Kabul Okay, the location is very important, as you can see, north of Kabul, 60 kilometers, and it is in the Parwan province of Afghanistan. It is Afghanistan's largest military base. Now, Parwan is strategic gateway because it is anchored by the Salang tunnel. Very important to note. And it links Kabul with Mazar-e-Sharif and northern Afghanistan. So that is why it is strategically very important. And highways from Parwan, it connects Kabul to Ghazni, to Kandahar and Bamia, which is in the western part of Afghanistan. And this gives the region central control over the national connectivity. So in UPSC, they can ask about the location of the Bagram airfield, okay, whenever you are reading or you are studying about a particular place, try to know about its historical evolution, its historical background, so that you can retain the information in a very good way. So if you talk about this particular airfield, it was built by the Soviet Union in 1950s, okay. Then Bagram, it gained prominence during the Cold War and then the Soviet-Afghan War that took place in 1979 to 1989, around 10 years. And then after the US-led invasion in 2001, the Bagram airfield, it became a primary American operation hub. And it functioned as for the work of logistics, intelligence and command center during the war or on terror in Afghanistan. So strategically again very significant, but with the US has withdrawn from Afghanistan, but after that also Bagram retains high strategic value due to geographical vantage point over the regional security dynamics, right? Because China is right now expanding its engagement with the Taliban, and the air base, it assumes renewed relevance, and that is why the US has warned it, because it has to balance out in terms of geopolitical shifts. And the importance of Bagram air base is amplified by the proximity to the sensitive Chinese sites, okay. There is a Chinese site called Lop Nur nuclear test site, okay. It lies around 2000 kilometers away from this particular region, but still it is quite important. And then there are other nuclear weapons facility like the Koko Nur. It is located farther east in the Qinghai province of China. So all these things make this particular airfield very important strategically. The next place is Gaza. So Gaza keeps appearing in news. There has been famine in Gaza in last few months. The United Nations declared a famine in Gaza, which was a first in West Asia, because 500,000 people, they were facing extreme hunger due to conflict and restricted access to food in Gaza. So we all know, if we define famine is declared when at least 1 in 5 households, they face extreme lack of food due to starvation, malnutrition and deaths, okay. So famine was declared in Gaza. That was the context. Now if we talk about the Gaza Strip, as you can see in this map over here, Gaza is a coastal territory in West Asia, okay. It is around 41 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide, okay. It is located northeast of the Sinai Peninsula. Very important to note, northeast of the Sinai Peninsula. It is the Sinai Peninsula is somewhere like this, in this position, and it borders Israel in the north and the east, Egypt in the southwest, as you can see in this map, and the Mediterranean Sea in the west. So UPSC keeps asking about the borders of the important places that are in news, so you have to have a fair idea about this particular region. Historically, Gaza Strip is very important. We all know about the 6-day war of 1967. 6-day war of 1967 that resulted in Israel capturing Gaza from Egypt, and this initiated its military occupation of the region. Now Israel withdrew its settlements from Gaza in 2005, but this period was also very crucial because it saw intermittent blockades on the movement of people and goods over here. In 2007, Hamas, we all know about the Hamas, they assumed power in Gaza, Israel and Egypt, and they enforced a permanent blockade. And they justified it as a necessity for security. Then the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, it reported that the blockade has severely impacted Gaza's economy. Okay, it resulted in high unemployment, food insecurity, and dependency on Israel. Now, if we talk about the related border areas of Gaza, Gaza is encircled by walls on 3 sides. Okay, and there are 3 functional border crossings over here. Very important because UPSC can ask this question. One is the Karem Abu Salem crossing. Then there is Erez crossing. Erez crossing is controlled by Israel, and very important, that was in news, Rafah crossing. Rafah crossing is controlled by Egypt. So these kind of questions would appear, like which country controls which crossing. Okay, and these crossings have been sealed in response to recent hostilities in the region. Okay, so this was all about Gaza. The next one is Dardanelles Strait. So, the Dardanelles Strait was temporarily closed to maritime traffic because there were like forest fires in this region. Okay, now if we talk about the Dardanelles Strait, it is a narrow, strategically vital waterway in northwestern Turkey, as you can see in this map. It is in the northwestern region of Turkey. It is basically a strait. It separates the Gallipoli Peninsula from Asia Minor. Okay, now Gallipoli Peninsula is in Europe and Asia Minor. Now, it connects the Aegean Sea, as you can see in this map, with the Sea of Marmara. So, Dardanelles Strait connects Aegean Sea with Sea of Marmara. Very important from UPSC Prelims point of view. And it provides access to Black Sea via the Bosphorus Strait. So, this is the Dardanelles Strait, this is the Sea of Marmara, this is the Aegean Sea. Here is the Bosphorus Strait. After the Bosphorus Strait, we can see that it is the Black Sea. So, we all know that Dardanelles Strait and this particular Bosphorus Strait, so all these are very important, very crucial for regional and global maritime trade. Now there are key ports along the strait, okay, like the Gallipoli, then there is Isiabad, then Kanakkale, all are located within Turkey. And these key ports are like very important for the trade and business across the world. This strait has been central to major historical events, like if you talk about the Persian invasion of 480 BC, then if you talk about the World War, Gallipoli campaign. So during these times, the Dardanelles Strait, it played a strategic and military role, major role. Next topic is Thailand-Cambodia border tension. Okay, so we all know that in last few months, like Thailand and Cambodia, they of course were having a lot of tension, and finally they agreed to a ceasefire after the clashes near the Priya Vihar and the Prasat Ta Muin. So in the South Asian entire triangle region. So if we talk about the Emerald Triangle region over here, so it is a border sensitive region where Thailand, Cambodia and Laos, they meet. You can see this is Thailand, this is Laos and this is Cambodia, and this is the strategic region where these temples are present. Now if we talk about the Priya Vihar temple, it is a Hindu shrine dedicated to Lord Shiva, and it is located in Cambodia. So they can confuse you whether it is located in Thailand or Laos. Now you have to remember that it is located in Cambodia along the Thailand-Cambodia border in the Dangrek Mountains. Dangrek Mountains. Okay, this particular temple was built in 11th century by Khmer king Suryavarman I and II. And it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Okay, now there were like the ICJ ruling, and this of course in 2013 reaffirmed that the temple belongs to Cambodia. But Thailand rejected the ICJ's jurisdiction, and this led to tensions between the two countries. Okay, and if we talk about the Priya Vihar temple, please don't get confused about, because both the names are different but they sound similar. So the second one is the Priya Vihar temple. It is again a 12th century Shiva temple, and but later it was adapted for Buddhist use. Now, a part of temple complex with the Prasat Tamyun and Prasat Tamyun Tot. Okay, so these are the like part of the entire temple complex. And again, the Prasat Tamyun Thom, this was constructed against Khmer kings Uday Aditya Varman II and Jaya Varman VI. Jaya Varman 7. So you have to remember the names, like who constructed them and all. And this of course showcases the Angkorian architecture in this region and the like importance of India in this particular region and the entire subcontinent. So please remember the location of these temples, who constructed it, and the entire history about it. Extremely important topic, Gola Tivai complex. Gola Tivai complex. Okay, so it is in Sierra Leone. So Gola Tivai complex has been inscribed as the country's first UNESCO World Heritage Site. Okay, why? Because it has decades of conservation led by the Environmental Foundation for Africa. Now, in Sierra Leone, this particular complex is present. It has the basically the national park, the Gola Rainforest National Park, and the Tivai Island Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, Tivai Island, it is located on a river which is known as Moa River, and it covers around 12 square kilometers of area. It has a lot of species, endangered western chimpanzees, and then like colobus monkeys and all. And if we talk about the Gola Rainforest National Park, it is the largest tropical rainforest in Sierra Leone, rich in biodiversity. There are like pygmy hippopotamus and African forest elephants as well. Okay, so very important, they can ask you where is it located, the Gola Tivai complex. You have to remember Sierra Leone. Okay, not only about the complex, they can ask you about Sierra Leone also. Where is it located? It is a country on the west coast of West Africa. Sierra Leone. It is bordered on the southeast by Liberia, by Guinea to the north. Okay, and it has a tropical climate, savannas to rainforests, and like quite important from the perspective this time. And if we talk about the geography, of course, the southwest coast of Africa. So from a broader eagle's eye perspective also, they can ask about the question. This is the Moa River we were talking about. Okay, and in eastern Sierra Leone, the plateau is interspersed with high mountains. There is a mountain over here, very important to note, Bintu Mani mountain. Okay, the highest point in the country, Sierra Leone. Okay, the next topic is Yemen Red Sea crisis. So the US intensified airstrikes on the Houthi held areas in Yemen. Okay, as you can see in this map, the location of Yemen. Okay, and it is situated on the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula in West Asia, and it borders Saudi Arabia and Oman. Saudi Arabia is in the north, Oman is in the east. So Yemen has an extensive coastline along the Red Sea, as you can see over here. Okay, and the Gulf of Aden and the Arabian Sea over here. And in the south, it has Guadalfui Channel. Now, here is the Bab el Mandab Strait. Very important. This particular strait is a critical maritime choke point between Yemen and Djibouti. Djibouti in Africa. Bab and Mandab Strait, this connects the Indian Ocean with the Mediterranean Sea, okay, via the Red Sea Channel and the Suez Canal. Suez Canal is over here. Here is the Indian Ocean, this is the Mediterranean Sea, this is the Suez Canal, and this is the Red Sea. So you need to have a very good understanding of all these important places and straits and countries. Houthis, so you all know that it is a Shia militant group and it originated in the northwestern Yemen region in the 1990s as a rebellion against the Yemeni state. It was backed by Iran and is a part of the Axis of Resistance, okay, basically an informal network of Iranian supported militias, and they have targeted Israeli linked vessels in the Bab al-Mandab Strait, and the reason has been the Gaza conflict. So any issue over here, of course, threatens the freedom of navigation, it disrupts the international shipping, and it also heightens the regional geopolitical tensions and a very important critical sea lane in this region. Next is Lake Chad. So, recently Chad concluded Operation Haskanite. Operation Haskanite. Okay, it is basically a military campaign against Boko Haram and it targets the group's strongholds in the Chad region. We all know that Boko Haram is a Nigerian based terrorist group and which seeks to impose Islamic law in the region, and basically Boko Haram, it translates to Western education is forbidden. That is the meaning of Boko Haram, and this is how you link the things and try to remember the various terms. Now if you talk about Chad, Lake Chad, so basically it is located in the northwest Africa, okay, the Lake Chad basin, and it spans across Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger and Chad. Okay, so basically a freshwater system, a dynamic freshwater system with human presence. It dates to Paleolithic era. The Sao civilization, which was from the 5th century AD, it left notable archaeological remains over this place, and there are a lot of like humanitarian and security related crisis in this region, okay, because 10 million people they are in need, and they are facing poverty, climate change and prolonged conflict, because Boko Haram, it exploits the instability of the region, and this deepens the insecurity and the humanitarian challenges in the basin. So this is all about Lake Chad and the surrounding countries and Boko Haram. Next topic is Lake Kariba. Okay, so El Nino conditions have like triggered situations like heat waves and droughts in the Zambezi region, and this has led to a decline in water levels at Lake Kariba. If we talk about Lake Kariba, it is located on the Zambezi River. Very important in the match the following question type, like questions can appear in UPSC Prelims. So where is Lake Kariba located? In the Zambezi River, which lies between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Okay, it forms the world's largest man-made lake and reservoir by volume. It is situated around 1300 kilometers upstream from the Indian Ocean and 200 kilometers downstream of the Victoria Falls. As you can see over here, Lake Kariba, Zambezi River. Okay, this is the Victoria Falls we were talking about, and Zambia, this is Mozambique, okay, Botswana. So, very significant, a critical source of hydroelectric power of Zimbabwe and Zambia, and it supports a major commercial fishing industry, which is very important, vital for livelihoods and food security in southern Africa. So, this was all about Lake Kariba. In the next session of this important places and news, we'll be covering more topics like Mauritania, then Sudan, okay, Senegal, then like Algeria, Strait of Hormuz, and other places. For this session, this was all. So uh, keep watching the various videos that are being released by APTI Plus Academy. Thank you so much.